Yes, by Zeus. I'll throw all my will into picking apart their arguments first, by Zeus. What do you hope to achieve by sealing off our city walls with bars?
So that we may take charge of the economy, and you can stop making war amongst yourselves.
You think we waged war because of the economy?
It's what stirred up the war and everything else. It was to steal the silver. That's why Rumsfeld and Cheney are always banging on their war drums. Well, from now on, they can do whatever they like. They're not getting any money out of that treasury.
But what will you do?
You have to ask, we'll control it, of course.
You control the funds.
Why is that so surprising? We already control the funds at home.
But that's not the same.
How is it not the same?
Those funds are for waging war.
But there doesn't have to be a war in the first place.
Then how else will we save ourselves?
Who'll save you?
You?
Yes, us.
Appalling.
You will be saved. Even if you don't want to be.
You're speaking like a terrorist.
Yeah. That must be a bit annoying. But it's how it's going to happen.
By Demeter, it's illegal.
Noble sir! You have to be saved.
And if I don't want to...
Well, that just makes it even more urgent.
Well, when did matters of war and peace become your concern?
We'll enlighten you.
Talk quickly, or you cry. Oh.
I'll talk, if you keep that hand down.
But I can't. It's hard to control myself because of this fury in me.
You'll weep more then!
Come to yourself, old woman. Go on then, talk.
In earlier times, we kept ourselves silent, with natural self-control. You wouldn't let us speak anyway. But you didn't impress us. We knew you too well. And so we would be sitting at home, and we'd hear of another bit of bad policy, hurting on the inside, but with a smile on our face. When you came home, we'd turn to you and say, "Husband, did you decide to ratify the peace treaty today?" "Keep it to yourself," he'd reply, "or you." "Shut up!" And I would shut up. But I'll never shut up!
You cry, you don't shut up.
And that attitude is why I did shut up and stayed in the house. And once again we'd hear of some new rotten legislation. And should we go to you and ask, "Husband, how is it, my good man, that you keep pursuing this fucking stupid policy so brainlessly?" Well, right away he'd say that if I didn't get back to spinning my thread, he'd grab me by the hair and beat my head so hard into the wall I'd wail. "War," he'd say, "is governed by men."
And he'd be speaking rightly, by Zeus.
How is that right, you miserable soul, when all we want is to give our well-meant advice? And now you can hear it in the streets. Is there a man left in the country? And someone else will reply, "Zeus, no, there is not." So, it looks like it's up to us women to save Greece and its people. Well, how much longer do we have to wait? We only want to give our well-meant advice while you shut up as we had to in turn. Then you'll be set right.
You'll set us right? Outrageous! I can't bear to hear it.
Shut up!
I shut up for you? You filthy creature with a dirty tampon up your cunt! Not while I'm alive, I won't.
Well, if that's what's bothering you. There. Now shut up.
It's a box to keep it in.
Now that you're girded up, sit there. Card wool. Chew on beans. War will be managed by women. Now, if sweet Eros and Cyprus-born Aphrodite have breathed sexiness into our breasts and thighs and caused lustful convulsions and the biggest bonus ever in our men, then across Greece we'll be known as war enders.
But what will you do?
Well, first of all, we'll stop fully
your spear association.
But isn't it just a bit ridiculous when a man has a shield with a gorgon's head in his cold, dead hand and he's buying some fish?
By Zeus, yes! Just last week I saw a tank commander riding through Safeway. He had his helmet full of dal that he'd taken from one of those local takeaways. And there was a Blackwater contractor waving his spear around like Rambo. He'd frightened the pig seller so he could drop down all the pigs himself.
But how will you manage the badly mangled affair between the states and pick it apart?
Nothing's easier.
Oh, how then? Please explain.
It's like a skein of wool. When it gets tangled, you take it through the spindle. A little bit over this way, and a little bit over that way. And then it all comes clear. And that's how we're going to deal with this war if we're allowed. We'll send diplomats. A little bit over this way, a little bit over that way. We'll even send them to Iran.
You think you can solve the affair between the states with wool and skeins and spindles? You idiots.
If you had any brains at all, you'd conduct your state entirely like our wool and skeins and spindles.
Well, how then? Please explain.
God, that's passe. Just as we wash all the sheep dung out of wool in a bath, so with the city, you would have to wash all the useless pieces of shit out of the public service. Next, you take the wool, put it over a couch, and beat the worthless scum out with a stick, and pick out any birds. Then there are those that tangle together and bunch into factions, while we'll comb them out of office and pull off their heads. Next, into the basket of civic goodwill, we must card everyone, any foreigners, friends of ours, immigrants, even the immigrants who didn't pass the citizenship test.
They don't know who Don Bradman was.
We card them all in together. Next, our states and excise territories. They're like little tufts of wool at the moment, lying all alone. We must pick them up, each and every one, and card it all together until we have a great ball of wool, from which to knit a cloak for the people.
Horrible. Them talking about carding and knitting when not one of them has any real stake in the war at all.
Oh, you all are cursed! We bear double what you do. First of all, we bear the children that are sent off, boys in armour.
Don't preach up the past.
Next, when we should be taking our pleasure in our youth, we're sleeping alone because of the army. Worse are the widows, who are alone in their chambers grieving and growing older and still virgins.
Ah, but don't men grow old too?
Oh, Zeus, that's not the same. Well, when he comes home from war, he'll be old, but he'll quickly find some new young girl. But youth for a woman is short. And if she isn't taken at once, nobody wants her. And so she goes out and gets a facelift and a boob job and waits for a better future.
But any man that can still get a fat.
Why don't you die?